When a superstar leaves the WWE, they expect the next step in their career to be a monumental success. However, this isn't always the case, and sometimes a superstar can regret leaving the WWE altogether. But which times were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 wrestlers who regret leaving WWE. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. Alberto Del Rio. WWE and Vince McMahon were actually huge fans of what Alberto Del Rio brought to the company, well, at least during his early days in the company. Del Rio was booked incredibly well, and he won the Royal Rumble and even had a number of runs as world champion. However, after Del Rio's WWE departure in 2016, Del Rio expected to become a huge star in every promotion he went to. And whilst he was booked regularly in promotions such as Impact Wrestling, Del Rio's personal life began to blacklist him from a number of pro wrestling companies. Del Rio currently has a terrible reputation for being one of the worst people in wrestling, and he's often seen declaring that he's returning to WWE, but there are no truths to these rumors, and they're simply Del Rio trying to create some much needed buzz for himself. Number 9. Rikishi. Rikishi was one of the most popular stars of the Attitude Era. As part of the Too Cool faction, Rikishi was part of an incredibly memorable act which fans have fond memories of to this very day. Unfortunately, as the Attitude Era came to an end, so did Rikishi's push, as he failed to maintain a top position in the company. Issues with WWE management relating to his spot on the card, as well as management informing him he needed to lose weight, led to Rikishi leaving on bad terms in 2004. Rikishi believed he could be a huge star outside WWE, but this simply didn't happen, and he would ultimately regret leaving. Thankfully, Rikishi and WWE made amends, and he would return for sporadic appearances and a rightful WWE Hall of Fame induction in 2015. Number 8. James Storm. Most wrestling fans know James Storm for his popular tag team with Bobby Roode in TNA, and when Storm appeared on NXT in 2015, it was expected that he would sign a full-time WWE contract. This didn't happen though. Although WWE offered Storm a great deal and they were very impressed with what he could offer, Storm turned down the WWE contract to return to Impact Wrestling. This was a terrible move for him, as he spent the next few years in Impact going through the motions whilst his former partner Bobby Roode was regularly featured on television. Without a doubt, Storm should have taken the WWE deal, and who knows, maybe WWE would have reunited Beer Money on the main roster. Number 7. Jake the Snake Roberts. In 1992, Jake Roberts made the biggest career move possible. He was going to leave the WWE, where he was extremely well paid, to jump ship to WCW. The reason for this was because Roberts had a fallout with Vince McMahon. Roberts wanted to be involved in the writing team for WWE, a role which he was promised directly by Vince, but this simply never came to fruition. Roberts was also going to make more money in WCW, but that was until a change in management led to Roberts' new WCW contract going from $3.5 million a year to just $200,000 a year. Roberts has been rather public in his regret of leaving WWE back in '92, and thankfully he did make his eventual return to WWE for a short run in 1996. Number 6. Ryback. Ryback departed the WWE in 2016, citing creative and financial reasons for his departure. Since then, he's done very little in the world of professional wrestling, and fans mostly associate the former star for his outlandish claims and bizarre social media antics. It's clear that Ryback thought he was an absolute megastar in WWE, but not a single wrestling promoter has shared his viewpoint. Ryback sporadically works independent events as well as sells supplements, which he uses his WWE catchphrases in a non-discreet attempt to acquire interest from WWE fans. Although Ryback probably wouldn't publicly admit it, leaving WWE was without a doubt the worst move of his career. Number 5. The British Bulldog. Following the Montreal Screwjob in November '97, the Bulldog decided to jump ship to WCW along with Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart. This would be a career decision which Bulldog would ultimately come to regret. At the 1998 Fall Brawl pay-per-view, Bulldog landed awkwardly on a trap door which was designed for the Warrior's entrance, due to take place during the War Games match in the main event. The rough landing resulted in a serious spinal infection which actually nearly paralyzed him. He'd be hospitalized for 6 months, and during his time recovering, WCW decided to fire him in one of the most unethical business decisions the company ever made. Following his recovery, Bulldog continued to be in a ton of pain, and he would battle a painkiller addiction in the years that followed. He would eventually return to the WWE during the Attitude Era in 1999, but Bulldog simply couldn't perform to the level he once could. Number 4. Ric Flair. Ric Flair had the perfect WWE send-off. He would lose his retirement match to Shawn Michaels at Wrestlemania 24 in an acclaimed matchup, which just so happened to be the 16-time world champion's best in-ring performance in years. Following his in-ring retirement, Flair would make a number of WWE appearances as he was still very much under a WWE contract. However, in late 2009, it was reported that Flair had signed a deal with TNA. Flair didn't shy away from the fact that he urgently needed money at the time and that he didn't have much choice in the matter. Flair would wrestle a number of matches in TNA, which some WWE fans say tarnished the legacy of the match at WrestleMania 24. Nevertheless, Flair revealed that he regretted signing for TNA. During a discussion on his podcast, Flair would reveal, "There are a couple of things I regret. Number one was ever going to work for TNA. That's my own fault. It was just a lot of money to wrestle 65 days a year, right? 65 days and make a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? Not WWE money, but pretty good money to do nothing. And I made a lot of friends. I like Kurt Angle very much. I like James Storm and Bobby Roode. I like AJ Styles. Everybody treated me great. I mean, I don't have any bad things to say about TNA or the people there at all. After being in WWE, it's pretty hard to work anywhere else because you're always comparing them no matter how hard you try not to." Number 3. Lex Luga. Lex Luga's WCW debut is one of the most famous debuts in pro wrestling history. Luga showed up on WCW Nitro without it being public knowledge that Luga had signed for the company. Luga also didn't give Chairman Vince McMahon notice that he was going to sign for the company and showed up on the premiere edition of WCW Nitro. This would be a decision which Luga would openly regret in later years. He stated in a number of interviews that the way he conducted himself during this time damaged the relationship between himself and Vince, and this is likely why Luga never had another run in WWE. Number 2. Jeff Jarrett. WWE Hall of Famer Jeff Jarrett actually left the WWE for WCW twice during the 90s. His first departure came in 96 when Jarrett left the WWE due to creative dissension between him and Vince McMahon. Sadly for Jarrett, he would regret this decision as his WCW run completely flopped and Jarrett was forced to return to WWE during the Attitude Era. Although he had moderate success as a mid-card heel, he would once again depart the WWE in 1999. Jarrett's 1999 WWE departure is well documented as he held Vince McMahon up for money in order for him to drop the Intercontinental title to China at the No Mercy pay-per-view. This damaged the relationship between the two sides for almost 2 decades and Jarrett was blacklisted from the company until his surprising induction into the Hall of Fame in 2018. And number 1, Bret Hart. When Bret Hart joined WCW in late 97, he was awarded one of the most generous contracts in WCW history. The issue was that WCW had zero idea how to use Bret Hart. Bret was involved in terrible storyline after terrible storyline, and his career came to an abrupt end after a botched kick in his main event match against Goldberg at the 1999 Starrcade pay-per-view. During an appearance on WWE Backstage in 2020, Bret would openly share his regrets in leaving WWE back in 97. He stated, "I'm so sorry that I ever went there, to WCW, for a lot of reasons, including Goldberg's kick in the head. Bill was one of those kind of guys that the more he was wrestling, the more total disregard for the safety of wrestlers he was working with. It didn't matter. If I could do it all over again, I think I would find a better way to stay in WWE. Knowing what I know about WCW, I'm sorry I ever went there." But there you have it, folks, 10 wrestlers who regret leaving WWE. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.